Welcome back to Mediocre Asking Podcast. It's August 12th now. About ready to head to Prince of Wales, and I discovered that we don't have a podcast for next Thursday, and we have not yet recapped deer number 2. So we've got to recap deer number 2.
Yes, we do.
Deer number 1, I got on was it the 3rd? Something like that. Opener didn't work out real well, and then the 3rd, it was really rainy. And got that nice buck, which I talked about there. And then Abby got into town on the 5th. And we left on Friday the 6th. And then ended up getting the deer on the 7th, which was Saturday. So we went to a spot that I had been before, and 2 of my buddies know about it. So you kind of want to keep things quiet. You know that other people know about it too. But you don't want to, I guess, invite other people. I don't know. But I was worried. We had a good discussion, almost an argument, when we were in Wyoming, talking about what happens if there's someone else there. Because it's a 7-mile hike or so from where we would put the boat, and we go about 7 miles. And you weren't so keen on us turning around and going back down the mountain if there was someone camped right where we wanted to camp.
Well, I mean, I've really only hunted in Wyoming, and if you see someone else parked at the trailhead, like, you just walk a different way. So I was like, there's no way we're hiking in there 7 miles and we see someone and we're just going to turn around. Like, yeah. I was not. I
hadn't decided exactly what we would do if that happened. I was hoping that wasn't going to happen. I hadn't had a plan that, okay, if there's someone there, because this is a kind of a thin ridge, so it's not the type of mountain where you approach a face, and if you see someone walking to the left, you can walk to the right. You got to go past this camp, down a ridge for another 2 or so miles, then you get to the mountain, and then it kind of opens up. So it's one of those where the angle of your approach makes it, I don't know, sketchy and weird. But thankfully, we didn't have to worry about it because we hiked our 7 miles up there, and that's probably why no one else was there, because it was some work.
Yeah. Yeah, now having seen it, if someone had been there, you can't go around them because it's a thin ridge and it's super steep. And so I kind of get the concern, but yeah, glad we didn't have to deal with it.
Yeah. I didn't want to think about it. We don't have to.
Nope.
So where we wanted to go a little bit further down the ridge to make camp, but oftentimes where you camp is dictated by weather, not necessarily just where you want to go. And so as we got the first, I don't know, most of the trip out of the way, maybe 7/8 of the trip out of the way. And then it really started raining, so you got the sweat from hiking, and then you got the rain. So I was just absolutely drenched, and then it happened to clear for a little bit. Or not clear, but at least stop raining for a little bit. And so we deployed the tent as fast as possible. And then just boots are wet, pants are wet, everything is just soaking wet. And so, gosh, that was noon?
Yeah, about noon.
Something like that. So we wanted to be able to glass, because you could see most of where we wanted to see from that vantage point, but it was just too foggy. It wasn't raining, which was nice, but it was too foggy and we were wet, so we just kind of hung out inside, and I just kept looking at my phone and e-scouting or looking at the plan, and then cooked some dinner, and it was like 5 o'clock, and you can't go to bed yet.
Yeah.
The weather was supposed to be better on Saturday, and that's what we were hoping for, that the fog would lift, but it was not. Those hours did not go quickly.
No, and I mean, when you get wet, you just have to try to stay warm. You can't mess around outside too much, or you get cold and got to go home.
Yeah, we'd done that before. It was last year, right?
Yeah.
We're hiking up on the mountain, super cold, and then just kind of got fogged in. And when you're up on that, I don't know, there's some people kind of use the fog as a way to shield their movement if they know exactly where they want to get to, and they kind of know the mountain. And if the deer or whatever you're hunting is on the left side of the ridge, and then you use the cover of the fog to move down the right side of the ridge to make your move, then it can be good. But also it can be the opposite, because what if in your movement you're spooking out stuff because you can't see them in the fog, they see the movement and they take off. So it was we didn't want to go any further up on the mountain, and then we just stayed there, and we got cold instantly. I had a tarp, hung the tarp so we weren't getting rained on, but just by stopping our movement, it was awful. Very cold, lost feeling of the legs. I was like, we got to start moving because I'm getting cold. And that's your your first step to hypothermia, and it can happen in Alaska even in August. So yeah, that was not a great memory.
No.
Period. So we got made camp, hung out there for 8 or so hours. Abby had a movie downloaded on Netflix, which was awesome. Some people play like cards or whatever, and we had
Okay, I'd been trying to download it for my flight to Ketchikan, and it didn't download before the flight, but then after the flight, it downloaded. So it wasn't like I downloaded it for the hunt.
oh, it sounds so much better. It's great that you had that. So we watched this cheesy movie, and then went to bed. Woke up, more fog and rain. Fog and rain just wasn't lifting. Finally, we got moving around 6:30 or so.
Yeah.
Been up for about an hour and a half or so. Started to make our way down the ridge. It's about 23 to 2,500 feet in elevation, but where we wanted to go was about 32 or so. So we started working down the ridge and started to see a couple bucks as we got toward the main face and where we wanted to go. And it took a long time. We're going about 0.6 miles per hour because it was kind of steep in spots, and then it would kind of dip down a little bit. It was really hard to get the right line because there was timber too, and I had a couple tracks from previous trips there, so it seemed like every 2 or 3 minutes I was checking my OnX to see if we were on the right path, because you get on those ridges, and if you're in the timber, you can go down what you think is easy, but it's the wrong way. And there were a couple times where I thought it was straight ahead as the mountain, and I looked at the compass and it was off. And you're off by 15 degrees, like that puts you're in extra climbing, you're getting cliffed out. It was awful. So finally we got to a spot where it opened up a little bit, got high enough on the mountain where we could see stuff and we could make better maneuvers. But that was about as bad as I remembered. I was hoping it was going to be worse, or I thought it was going to be better than I remembered, but it's actually pretty bad. Did I sell it okay, or was it?
Well, I think you kind of kept telling me, like, oh, it's not that bad because you'd gone up there with your buddy and he had to get hip surgery like a few weeks later. So you were like, oh, we're super slow because.
Yeah, I was blaming him.
And so you're like, oh, we'll definitely be faster. And we were not any faster.
I do remember back, and we were pretty slow, but we were able to see the mountain. So we had that frame of reference, which I think helped us.
Yeah.
So I think so we were slow because, I mean, like, you never know if like you have like a bad hip or a bad ankle and it's just something that you're going to get over versus something that like requires surgery. So when he was like, yeah, this hurts. I'm like, well, I mean, you're still willing to do it, so it must not be that bad. And then, doctor says there's like nothing left. I gotta, jeez.
Oh, right. That's, I can't imagine.
Yeah. So we ended up getting up on top of the ridge and we looked down and it cleared just enough. And we were able to get out of the wind a little bit. And so even though we were soaking wet from all the moisture and water that was on the brush as we were walking through, so we were soaked, but stopping and being out of the wind, we were kind of warm, or at least you didn't get cold really fast, which is nice. So we had some snacks, and the mountain opened up for, gosh, I don't know, was that like a minute or so? And we just glassed frantically and saw 2 huge bucks.
Yeah, that was awesome.
So we weren't sure if we were going to stay with that, and then it fogged in a little bit. So we went further down the ridge, and then it didn't open up really again until later. I don't know what time this was. This was getting probably mid-morning, 10-ish, 11-ish, something like that.
Yeah. It was kind of the clouds were moving through, so it was on and off visibility, but the windows were really quick.
It seemed like there were a couple of times where it opened up and you could see that it was sunny, like way down below. And so it seemed like it was high clouds, it was mid clouds, and there was fog. And there was only like high clouds left, or like just the mid clouds are left. It wasn't nearly as thick as it was. And so as it started to clear a little bit, it started getting more, like it would pass through, like you said, and we'd get little glimpses. And so we decided to go make a move on those bucks, and it had been about an hour and a half. And we set up, and then it just kind of vanished. I couldn't see them.
Well, and
And
because we circled kind of down so
yeah,
that we'd have a better shot angle than just shooting straight down on them.
yeah,
And we were worried because there was a doe bedded in there where we were going through, and so we were just trying to make sure we knew where we were so we weren't spooking them out.
yeah, yeah. Finding that line was key because there was some definite cliff areas, and so if you try to go
Yeah.
down this and you cliffed out and you got to walk all the way up, so in a we kind of scouted a spot we could make a move if we wanted to go after those two, and then as we were headed back, we took that route, got set up. The doe and the fawn
Gone.
didn't. I don't know if they were gone or
Yeah.
what, but yeah, they didn't care
We
or
might have got
weren't there.
past them, yeah.
Yeah. Set up for the shot, and then it just vanished. The fog rolled back in,
Yeah.
and so we were
It
able
was like the worst possible. Like the bucks had stood up, and then you were like kind of on him, but then the fog was coming in, and we were like, better wait
Yeah.
on that. And it's like I kind of had that sinking feeling where you see the bucks up, and then he disappears into the fog,
Yeah.
and I was like, we're not. It's over.
yeah,
After years of fine print contracts and getting ripped off by big wireless providers, if we've learned anything, it's that there's always a catch. So when I first heard that Mint Mobile offers premium wireless starting at just $15 a month, I thought, what's the catch? But after talking to them and using their service, it all made sense. There isn't one. Mint Mobile's secret sauce is that they're the first company to sell wireless service online only. They cut out the cost of retail stores and pass those sweet savings directly to you. For anyone who hates their phone bill, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month. I was hesitant about having to get a new phone and a new phone number, but with Mint, you can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone and your same phone number along with all of your existing contacts. Mint Mobile gives you the best rate whether you're buying for one or for a family, and at Mint, families start at 2 lines. All plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and to get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/waypoint. That is mintmobile.com/waypoint. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/waypoint.
200 yards, and then so I range find. I used the rangefinder, put it at 200, and then I just didn't. I didn't have enough time then to get it in the scope and then make the shot. But yeah, like you said, is it going to just slowly feed away? Is it going to spook out? Oh, it was awful. So we ended up backing out, going up, and then down the chute we initially wanted to try. Actually, no, we scouted it. We from the spot where I was set up, it looked like we could get to another little piece of texture. And so when it fogged in, we dropped out, went up around, and then got to the other spot, which cut it in half. It was 100 yards. And I didn't see the thing. And then it appeared. And then there was that other one that I couldn't see. I'm just kind of looking at both. And it just didn't seem to really know what was going on, be too concerned. And I've never been in a situation where I've looked at a buck of that magnitude and be like, oh, where's the other one? But you just kind of get that feeling the animal's not about to go.
Yeah.
It was standing there and it was kind of walking. It actually kind of walked toward us a little bit. And I thought, this thing is awesome. Like I'm going to be happy with it. So shot it, dropped it. And then coming up on it was sweet. Like we'd count it. I mean, it was awesome. It was, we thought it was either a 4x4 or a 4x3, but either way, it was nice and big deer too. Tons of fat on it.
Yeah. That's the fattest deer I've ever seen.
Yeah, I
And
think
it was, well, I was just going to say, it was cool too after you just dropped him in his tracks. And then the other buck stood up and was just kind of hanging out, like walked over, kind of took a look. Doe came over, took the look. They were just hanging out. We were just kind of watching them, like.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool.
And that makes me think that this area doesn't necessarily get hunted too much, which is why I don't
No.
want to talk about it. and that's just man, it's so difficult to get to some of these areas. It's such a pain, and some people just don't really have the time or the weather. If being a teacher, it's nice to be able to have this time. Some people take time off. Our buddy Ryan is up on a Dall sheep hunt. He took some time off from work. So if you have the time and the weather window coincides, and the weather was terrible, but when we did look at it, it was going to clear. It was going to be the best day was going to be Saturday. Sunday it was supposed to start raining in the afternoon. Monday may have been okay, and so we definitely had more time if we needed it, but it doesn't always coincide like that. You might have the 1 day window like last year on the proposal hunt, and we were in a spot that we wanted to maybe look for goats too, but it was the deer were popping, and we didn't have time. The next day it was supposed to close in.
Yeah.
And so then it would even put maybe not getting home at risk, but it was certainly not going to be a nice boat ride home. So you just kind of take what you can get. And that was an awesome buck last year for the proposal. So that all worked out. But yeah, it was fun. Where was it on like misery scale?
I don't know. It wasn't so miserable as much as just that steep stuff is just sketchy.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with steep. Steep and rocky is fine. You can kind of, that your feet are going to be good. But in that stuff, it's just so slick and your feet go out and you start sliding and you're like, is this the end?
Yeah. Yeah, there were a couple spots where I laid on my side and just kind of like scooted over. Because all that fog, it hadn't rained in a little bit and it was starting to clear so you could see the whole mountain. You could see everything beneath you, but it was just that vegetation is so slick. Yeah. And we had trekking poles, but you have that added weight. And if, something does give way, that it just happens. I thought about bringing crampons. I didn't put them in there. So even if you just had one crampon on the downhill side foot, you would have just great. You could sink in, you'd have 4 points of contact, and then you step with the other foot. I mean, that thing would be in, and that would be great to have. But yeah, it's just so slick. And there were a couple of spots that were just unavoidable where there was going to be consequences if the feet went out and you went quick. And some other places where, we slid on purpose because it was so steep. You're getting down. Mm-hmm. This is a 6 or 8 foot little spot. So no big deal. Just slide. But yeah, it was cool.
Yeah.
Now that it's over.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'd go back there. It wasn't crazy bad, but definitely somewhere where you got to be conscious of each step to make sure that you're not going to start sliding.
There's another thing, a debate. Whether or not to move in the fog or not is debatable. Crampons. Some people say, if you do slip, you want to slip. You don't want to have your foot anchored in and just, tear everything.
Yeah, maybe.
And then another thing would be when you get back to a spot that's good, that is that good potentially, do you settle for a smaller deer? What if it's a smaller deer, with thin back straps and it's going to taste great because it's a younger buck, but do you take one of those larger bucks that it's spread its seed already? It's an older buck. It's lived its life. The genetics have been passed through. You shoot a buck so you don't go home empty-handed?
I mean, up there, I think I'd have a hard time shooting a small buck just because you're going to see a big buck. Yeah. I mean, it's not, in a spot that's not as good, you take what you can get, but I don't know. Yeah, it'd be a lot of work to not get anything, but I just don't see how you don't get anything.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a nice buck. We got a lot of good meat off that. The backstrap was
big.
Probably the biggest backstrap from a blacktail I've ever had, which was awesome. Just a big buck all the way around, which is nice. But yeah, it was nice when we came back and they were still there. It had been like an hour and a half, and they were just bedded up, and that his stomach was absolutely full.
Oh yeah, I mean he had like grass coming out his nose.
Yeah, it was absolutely crazy. He was slightly downhill when we were taking care of him. There was a rock that he was kind of draped around a little bit, and so when we're doing the gutless method there, so you make the cut in the hide down the spine and then kind of roll it over that way, and there was so much food in it that it was starting to like run down back its esophagus and then out its nose. and it was just so much. That's probably why it was there bedded for so long, because it was just packing on,
Yeah, those
eating,
are
eating,
well
eating,
fed.
hanging out. But yeah, that was a great hunt. I'm excited to go back there again next year when you have, if the state of Alaska allows you
Yeah.
to get your. The
Yeah.
DMV is like closed down, and you can't make reservations or you can't make an appointment.
You have to have an appointment, but there are no appointments available. So
Yeah.
figure
And
it
then-
out.
Yeah, and so she can't get her Alaska residency to start her year because there's no way to do. And also, we need the marriage license. We sent in for the marriage to get the actual certificate, which is
Yeah.
proof that she is married to me. But the state hasn't been doing those because the system's been down or whatever. So like we can't do anything, and we're just waiting weeks. As far as like, I mean, it's an inconvenience. It's not like a big,
Yeah.
huge problem. But it would be nice to be able to start
To
that
be able
process
to hunt
of
this time next year.
Yeah.
Be real nice.
get all the names right on everything, get you added to everything else, get the whatever. But all right, so that is going to be this episode, whatever episode that I'm on right here. It'll be for next Thursday. I've been going Tuesday and Thursday, and I'm staying with that. I don't want to lose this kind of time of or this frame of reference. So it's still within a week of the actual hunt, which is good. So this will be episode 222. Make sure you check out the mediocrealaskan.com. You can go to Amazon and order A Miserable Paradise, my book. Leave a review. That's awesome. You can also go to amiserableparadise.com and you can order it there. Or if you live in Ketchikan, go by Parnassus. Check that out. If you're flying through Ketchikan, you can get it at Gifts on the Fly at the airport. If you're flying through Anchorage, you can get it at Mosquito Books in the airport. If you're in Juneau, you can get it at Rainy Retreat Books. If you're in Craig, Alaska, you can get it at Alaska Gifts. I think I got it right.
Yep.
So, all right. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you later.